Hey, welcome to the podcast, Reena.
Thank you so much.
For anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
I knew you were going to ask me that, so I came prepared with an answer. I am a wife of about 18 years, mompreneur of four kids, 17 and under, a lover of music and marketing, podcast host of the Better Call Daddy show, former reality TV show producer.
Hmm. Wow. So tell me a little bit about your podcast. I guess that's an interesting title. The first time I saw it, I was like, wait, did I read that right? What does that mean?
I love that. Yeah, I get that reaction a lot. So, my dad is just my biggest supporter. I literally call him every day, and he's always been the one to push me, in business and life. And so, yeah, I kind of went back to my love of casting. The first half of my career, I worked in TV, started off in the talk show industry and kind of worked in reality TV at the forefront of that. And I just love connecting with everyday people and good storytellers. And so I wanted to do that. And then at the end of every episode, I wanted to involve my dad because he's always wanted his own show and he's a total character. So I was like, oh, I'll just have him kind of wrap up my thoughts with a pretty little bow and add his 2 cents. And that's Better Call Daddy.
Nice. I like it. And
Thank
how
you.
how did you get into like reality TV production, that type of thing?
I think it really started honestly in my childhood. I loved to sing for my family and put on little performances for them. And then in high school, I went to a youth performing arts school. And then that led me to auditioning for a singing program in college. And then from there, I worked at a radio station on campus at Purdue and wanted to work in radio. I love the audio medium and feel comfortable kind of talking to people like we're doing right now, like one on one, but crowds and performing on stage kind of freaked me out. So I wanted to work in radio because you don't really see the audience, even though they do interact with you and call you. It's different. You don't see them.
Mhm.
But I didn't get the job. And so while I was in Chicago interviewing at WGN, I saw that Jerry Springer was looking for interns. And so that sounded like fun. And I decided to walk over to NBC Tower and throw my hat in, and I ended up starting there 2 weeks later. And yeah, that was a wild ride.
Wow. So you got to work on the Jerry Springer show?
I did. That was my first job, my first love, and there was nothing else like that.
Yeah, I bet it's so funny just from people cheering all the time, Jerry, Jerry, and just like the offshoots that have come from it, whether it's the Maury show or just like the shenanigans that the camera crew like chases people around and like they're like the what do you call that? That's probably the first time that I've heard the audio deck where somebody would like hit the bell like, oh, let's have them fight real quick and see where this
Right. And now
goes.
I feel like podcasters are even do that on their Roadcaster Pros, right?
Yeah,
Like if you need
yeah.
a funny moment, they're like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I've got a little switch pad here, but I haven't dug into it a little bit. But I'm like, hey, for now it works, and that that's pretty cool. Like being able to like have that love from childhood that you have, and then go on to actually pursue it and be on one of the wildest shows ever. That's like people have enjoyed. You like flip it on now, you still see reruns. You can watch them back on YouTube and different things like that. Like, what was that wildness like?
Yeah, it's actually crazy. Like I still remember some of the titles that I came up with. So I have searched some of those up on YouTube and I'm like, no freaking way. That resurfaced and got 300,000 views on YouTube like a decade later. I guess that was a good story, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. So I love actually finding some of my old episodes. I found one on a Reddit.
Mm.
Um, I had this guest who spelled the word horror wrong. Can I even say that on your show?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
She spelled it HORE. She was like, "You are nothing but a HORE." And that became like an entire saying. Like people started saying that, and you just cannot plan for that.
Mhm.
That is just magic in the making.
Wow. What? How did you guys find people? Did like were people playing it up for TV, or were they just like, "Hey, I've got this crazy story," and you're like, "That'd be good for TV."
Are you kidding me? As soon as I tell people that I worked on the Jerry Springer show, I literally have people messaging me like, "Oh yeah, my dad tried to sleep with my wife. Oh, my father tried to sleep with this person." Like, you make it okay for everyday people to literally just share with you that they know a Jerry Springer guest. Like,
Mm,
all I have to do is tell people that I worked there and then they bring me the stories. Like,
mm.
that's why now, even on my own damn podcast with 450 episodes already, like, they literally just keep coming my way. Like, I
Wow.
think Jerry's done thousands of episodes. I could probably do more.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess it
there's
is.
no shortage of
Yeah,
crazies.
that's true. And it's like sometimes you watch things, you're like, man, like how did people really choose to put themselves out there? Like here recently, I'm sure the show's maybe been around for a little bit, but one show I got introduced to within like the last couple of years is like Love After Lockup.
I
And
haven't seen that one.
it's essentially the premise is like somebody that's in jail um, does like the pen pal meet, and then somebody that's outside of jail goes through that website, and then they like set their hopes and their sights on like this person's going to be my everything. As soon as they get out, I'm going to marry them, or they're going to marry me, and we're going to have happily ever after. And of course, like the person that's in jail is like, hey, here's the next sucker, or here's the person that can get me out of my situation. And as soon as they get out, they're like, I'm free, I'm out. So let me do this. And then the other person's constantly like poking them, like, hey, when are you gonna do this? Chop, chop, chop. And it's like initially you thought the people in jail were crazy, but then the people outside the jail are just as crazy. And of course they do like their TV magic and things like that. But
Oh my God, I've got
it's
to
an
check that
interesting
out. That sounds
concept.
right up my alley.
Yeah. I think you might find it on like Peacock, or maybe some of the other streaming networks have like picked it up, and they've just been pushing it out there. And it's been interesting to watch because like just seeing what other people go through, especially with that show, it's like maybe things aren't as bad as I thought they were on my end. It's like,
And
okay,
I think that's what Springer was too,
yeah,
to be honest. Oh, well, maybe my life isn't so bad.
right. But I guess
I
it
think
is
that's why people watched it.
right, right. And I guess it's like it's weird how like people that are so open kind of give other people like a window into, hey, like, oh, okay. Like it kind of puts things into perspectives where it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse. And here's something that we can all laugh on. Like some people, it's like, man, that sucks to have your worst moment, or like a part of your life that most people would probably keep secret. Like you just like, nope, I'm gonna tell it to the world. I'm gonna be on TV. It's like, look, mom, on TV. That seems like the famous thing, but now it's like, huh, like I guess
Yeah,
everybody just sees it differently.
everybody wanted their 15 minutes of fame. That's
Yeah,
why people did it. And I
gotcha.
think truthfully too, like some really believe that Jerry was going to solve their problems. Those
Mm,
were the best guests. You're like, you really thought that?
yeah. So I guess did you see like much fallout from it, or like how did that play out for you, like post then, and then people still reaching out to you like present day trying to be like, hey, let me get on, let me share my story, let me tell you this, let me tell you that.
I mean, that's a little bit of the hard part I had with it is just that, we were producing a show a week. So
Mm,
you didn't have time to really stay friends after the show, but you definitely had your favorites. And I have kept in touch with some, which is crazy. But yeah, like there were guests that would call me for weeks and months and all the time. And I'm like, I can't really talk.
yeah.
It's kind of like when you're like in sales and you're supposed to make a certain number of calls a day,
Hmm.
and then your boss is like breathing down your back, like, are they going to buy or get off the phone?
Hmm. Right, right. You got to find that fine line between like, hey, make the sale versus like try to what's the word, like cook them, or like kind of warm them up, especially if you're doing cold calls or something like that.
Exactly. But at least at Springer, they weren't cold
Mm,
because the majority of our leads came from the 1-800-96 Jerry number. Like the people
gotcha.
were calling in with their own stories, but
Mm,
we were having to field the calls and make sure the stories lined up and make sure all of the parties involved wanted to actually participate. So
gotcha.
you didn't want to spend too much time on the phone with the first one because the first person who calls the show is obviously interested.
Hmm.
But then getting the person who is disrupting the marriage to come, that was the hard part.
Gotcha. So I guess did it take much convincing to do, or like some easier, harder than others?
Exactly. Yeah. Some were easier and harder than others. If the marriage hadn't been 15 years with three kids, they had just been in a relationship for a year,
Hmm.
those were easier,
Gotcha.
you know. But when there was kids involved or restraining orders involved
Hmm.
or things like that, it gets a little more complicated.
Right, right. Gotcha. So then from there, like, I guess podcasting wasn't just a natural progression with it
Oh, yeah. There was a
taking off.
lot of steps in between there. So after Springer, and I didn't
Uh,
feel like I could get hired anywhere else in Chicago, I moved to LA. There just wasn't a lot of other television shows in Chicago. There was like
gotcha.
Oprah, Jenny Jones had been canceled.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe like one other court TV show or something, but
Right, right.
I felt like I was young and I had like just landed this big opportunity and I just honestly felt like I'd be able to land something else. So I moved to LA, knew no one and started all the way over. Like I thought it was going
Mhm.
to be a lot easier because I landed like this big opportunity first.
Right.
Little did I know, like everyone in LA is a producer. So
Mm.
I started from the bottom and now I'm here. I took like an executive assistant role and answered phones and did account payable and receivable at a special effects animation company in Burbank.
Mhm.
But I got hired like on a pilot where I was a production coordinator and they liked me. So they were like, hey, you want to answer phones? I was like, yeah.
Mm.
So I did that for a bit and then they were just so cool. I love the Kyoto brothers. They gave me my first shot. I've interviewed them on my own podcast now, and it was a family-run business, but they had a lot of connections with the studios. And one brother was an animator, one was a producer, one was a director. And
Mhm.
so I just learned a lot working for them. They had been in the business. And sometimes when you work for a family run business, like they're willing to show you behind the curtain a
Mhm.
lot more than if you take an executive assistant role at like Disney, then you like do one thing. But
Yep.
if you work at a family run business, they show you everything, like what a budget looks like, how to location scout, how to do accounts payable, how to hire all these people. So I really feel like I got my footing there. And then they knew that I eventually wanted to kind of get back into the field. Like I was definitely applying for production jobs on the side and kind of trying a lot of that on the side. And eventually I had to spread my wings and they were kind of happy for me.
Yeah.
I still keep in touch with them to this day and like thank them for giving me you know, my first job there.
Right. I guess what was the big difference between going from Chicago to LA? And I guess kind of to back up a little bit, what was it like growing up in Indiana and like where you grew up in your family?
Yeah, I grew up in Kentucky,
Kentucky.
and me and my dad joke about this, but like my dad worked in a factory and my mom was a stay-at-home mom and
Hmm.
for the most part, I mean, she took like little jobs here and there, but for the most part, yeah, she had three kids young and I grew up with all four of my grandparents, which was really instrumental in kind of me wanting like a family unit and getting advice from the next generation and all of that.
Nice.
But to be honest, like my dad worked amongst Springer guests. Like everyone in his factory pretty much qualified.
Yeah. I could probably echo that because my first construction job was meeting a guy that was like that. It's like, watch out for him. And it's like, as soon as you saw him come into the trailer, you would think, oh, maybe he'd try to deny something. He's like, nope, nope, that's all me. It's like, yeah,
I
you definitely get
remember like
those.
working in the packing department one summer, like packing metal reflectors and just like listening in on the conversations of these ladies. I'm like, I'm scared of these people. Like, um, yeah, and it was really crazy too. So once I like made it to producer and I got to go to Jamaica, one guy from my dad's factory actually made it to Jamaica too.
Mm,
And he saw a picture of me with Jerry on my dad's desk
mhm.
and he was like, how do you know her? And my dad was like, wait, how do you know her? So it actually did happen where somebody from my dad's own factory ended up on a show that, I worked on, which was really kind of crazy. But yeah, like I said, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, those
Mhm.
states were ripe for the picking. Like that is pretty much where we got most of our stories. So I think me having grown up in Kentucky and
Yeah,
having heard a lot of these stories, like nothing really seemed far-fetched.
got you. So I guess by the time you got to Jerry, you're like, oh, I've seen this
This is
before.
perfect for me.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is like I had interviewed for like a production assistant role at like a financial show in New York.
Hmm.
And New York just seemed like kind of intimidating. Like I
Hmm.
was still a bit of a small town girl. Like from Kentucky to New York for me just seemed like a bit too much.
Yeah.
But Chicago was like drivable from home and I had a couple family members there.
Hmm.
It just was it was Midwestern. Like
Yeah.
it felt like I could do it.
Gotcha. New York's big city, like big lights, bright lights, Times Square, all that.
Yeah, I was just like, how will I find my way around this place?
Yeah. But then after
Yeah.
the time you put in Chicago, you're like, well, LA seems like a piece of cake. It's you go there and just make it work.
Yeah, and to be honest, like LA is like beautiful weather and mountains and it had like a whole vibe and just everybody moved at that time. I feel like they were moving out there like really just bouncing from show to show and jobs were plentiful then. It was really at the start of reality TV. Like you worked on one show, you hoped it got picked up for another season. If it didn't, you did unemployment, bounced around to another show. Like I honestly stayed employed pretty much the whole 3 years I was there, like no problem. Just kind of like meeting good people and bouncing from show to show with them. I worked on
Gotcha.
Nanny 911 for 3 seasons.
Oh
So
wow.
that was really lucky. And then I worked on another show, Motor Mouth, for
Hmm.
VH1. It was kind of like a carpool karaoke before that really took off.
Gotcha.
And that got picked up for another season. But then I worked on shows too that went nowhere.
Hmm.
you know, I worked on this one show called I mean, I guess I shouldn't say it went nowhere, but like maybe direct to DVD, I should say.
Hmm.
Um there was a show called Kill Reality where they took reality stars from like Survivor and Real World and Apprentice and like all of these like big shows and they put them in a house together,
Hmm.
one from like each show and they had their chance to star in a Hollywood movie.
Hmm.
So they filmed them in the house living
Yeah.
together, which is where all the drama happened. And
Right.
then they started them like trying to act and be in a Hollywood feature. That was crazy and
Wow.
fun.
Yeah. That sounds pretty. That it's just. It sounds like a lot's going on there. But I guess like working as a. Can you still got me? You still got me? I think my internet might have slowed up, but I think he'll come back. But I
I
was gonna
still
say,
got you, but the connection seems weird.
got you. Hopefully the video doesn't mess up too much with me. But I was saying that that sounds like a lot with like being a producer. Is it do you do the work like job by job and like project by project, or do you have the opportunity to like work on multiple jobs at the same time? Maybe it's me.
Yeah, it's project by project. I
Gotcha.
couldn't work on more than one project at the same time. Yeah, it was 9 4 for sure.
Gotcha. Is there a delay on my end?
The video is really lagging.
Gotcha. Let me see if I can mute it and then see if the audio comes back. Oh, it keeps telling me to restart my computer. And I'm like, no, I've just got to do this right now. Is it, am I still coming through?